Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is June 20th, 2024, and we're going to take a quick look today at Bitcoin again. We do have a quad witching coming up tomorrow in the traditional markets. This does have an effect on, of course, CME options expiry and many futures options expiries, of course, stocks and indexes options as well. And this will likely be a big rebalancing of liquidity um, as the market looks forward to the next quarter. So we will likely see some volatility in price action. Direction really is going to depend on where things are in the lower term timeframes. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin on the daily here. We can see that this is a green arrow. We need a white arrow. It shows up a little better. And this candle from yesterday did close below the $64,900, $65,000 April of 2021 monthly swing high that we've talked so much about. And we can see that the lower second standard deviation has now moved down into the top side closures and wicks, rather, I should say, the wicks here of this higher low structure that preceded the trend break to uptrend. And, we've already seen Bitcoin test down to this lower high here after losing this lower high over here from this downtrend prior to the uptrend. Of course, as a quick reminder, this 67,272 is the lower high that was holding up the consolidation lows, where Bitcoin was running the top side structure up here close to the all-time high with that double top coming in around $72,000. And of course, after this area broke down, we were looking down to $65,000 to this close open lower high that preceded the actual higher low and trend change. And this is at $64,000. This is now a likely candidate, again, as long as Bitcoin is below the lower first standard deviation and especially below $64,900 to $65,000 here by this overhead resistance here in the lower term timeframes, then it's more likely that Bitcoin will head back down and run Tuesday's wick low, which is right into that $64,000 area. Now, the lower second is a viable candidate as well, and this is coming in at that 63,500, the top side of that close open structure on the high side there of that higher low. Anywhere below there, and I've mentioned this quite a few times before, you can step it down to like 62 to 63, and that would be the closes here, just above these, just below rather, these wicks where that lower second is coming in. We have $63,000 to around 62.5, where this order block candle from the move up is coming in down to around $61,000. So you can kind of take it $1,000 chunks at a time. If we say 64 fail, look to 63.5 to 63K here, then to around 62.5 to 62K by the order block candles over here, and then down to 61K, which is the October of 2021 monthly closing high. Now, any breaches below there, keep a very close eye on this higher low, as I've mentioned quite a few times. The close is coming in at 60,800, and the wick low is coming in at around 60,000 to 60,150. It is 60,150 here on spot, and spot has been maintaining a bit of a markup. I believe that markup is still valid. Let's go ahead and take a look here just real briefly. We could go to some fundamental stuff, but this is a quick take today. So let's just go ahead and just take a quick look. So we've got, now it's about parity. So spot doesn't really have much of a markup. In fact, some derivative exchanges are marked up over, some are under, some are significantly over, like Binance here. So yeah, we don't have a spot premium. We do, of course, still have the CME premium up here, but well, this is closed right now. It's going to reopen soon, I believe. Let's see. Has price moved? No, actually, spot is marked up over CME right now, and it is open. So that is a little concerning, and does suggest that, if Bitcoin's going to live below any of this 15-minute structure, especially closes below around 65 150, then we're likely to see things head down and keep running these lows down to that 64,500, which was yesterday's low, to that $64,000. But anywhere above there, you can see that we did observe Bitcoin testing up to that lower first standard deviation, even testing the open of the low, the candle that put in the low. So we saw Bitcoin in yesterday's price action come right up to that open around 66.5, test that area, get pretty violently rejected, and then close back below support here. So, can it swing around this area? Absolutely. If you start seeing the wick low at $64,000, of course, that being this high over here, this lower high of the downtrend, then of course that's where we're looking 63, 63 and a half, 62, 62 and a half, and then 61 and the actual higher low structure there. Anywhere below that higher low structure, and we will be entertaining the possibility of things coming down to around 59 rather to 58.8 there by the monthly quarterly, as I mentioned in yesterday's video and the long form video earlier this week. Anywhere below there, keep an eye on 58.2 down to 56,500. This area can be safely swung as long as it gets closed back above, and then the March monthly and quarterly from 2021 at 58.8 to 59,000 is closed above. Otherwise, I would be marking my areas of interest down to the next swing high here from the 2021 cycle there. This is a weekly swing high at $53,000. Bitcoin previously found resistance here in February of this year. And then we have the close opens on the weeklies. These were highs that were put in August and December respectively of 2021. This area was previously found as support this year back in February. So this would be the next viable candidate to look for a markdown to. So what would be the conditions for looking for some further upside? Well, they have changed a bit since yesterday. So in looking closely at this structure, for Bitcoin to put in a low, it needs to close above Tuesday's open now, which would also be yesterday's wick high. And that would be around 66, 400 to 500 area. I would want to see preferably 66,500. And then we can start targeting somewhere around, the deeper, the actual failure here at that 67, the deeper targets somewhere around 67,272, this high over here, to the basis in the deeper $67,000 area around 67.7, possibly 68K. And then above there, 69K at the prior cycle all-time high to around 70 by the upper first standard deviation. Anywhere above there, and the failure here, which is a swing high, it's coming in at around, what is that number? That's going to be 70,200 or so. And then I would be looking for things to run up again to the close open at around 71,000, 71,500 by this guy. And then right back to the upper second, around $72,000 anywhere above there. Looking for 73 to the all-time high at 73,835, with the possibility for price to spike up to around 75 and then take it from 75 to 78, 78 to 80, and the mid to low 80s from there. Nothing too crazy. That has not changed in quite a long time since we've gotten into this overall range. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the criteria. You can see, by the way, if Bitcoin were to run the bands from the lower second, lower third area all the way back to the top side bands, we've got the upper second basically right there at $72,000 at that double top. And then the upper third is right there at the all-time high at 73,835. So, if we were to see some really nice volatility to the upside in tomorrow's price action that puts in a low, starts to break this lower high swing right here at 67,272. So that would be this area and this most recent lower high. Then I would be looking for price to pretty quickly make its way to minimum the prior cycle all-time high, maybe around $68,000, $69,000, and then come back to it in the lower term timeframes from there, and then revisit it on the daily, see where things close. But right now, things are remaining with pressure to the downside in terms of price action towards that $64,000 area as a retest. Just watch out if that area is lost. Just keep an eye on the top side of this higher low and then the bottom side, basically. So let's go ahead and look at some additional stuff here. We have the potential still in play for a cross back to the upside of stochastic momentum. Now, this is not stochastic RSI. This is a regular stochastic, which measures close over close price momentum. In this case, it's still remaining down because Bitcoin is still getting lower low closes. And we can see that the criteria, because of yesterday's wick high, for the pivot to change and this to cross back up with the K over the D read, that would be white over the purple here, we would need a closure above $65,322. So I would give it some room, 65,400, almost 65,500. So basically it would have to put out a low in order to cross this back up with any confidence in it trying to get some follow through in the next closure to then turn the D read back up as well. That would be a complete cross. So whenever you see the first cross above the pivot, you want to see the subsequent daily candle close above that in this case, or any time frame. You want to see the next candle close above the updated pivot from there. Let's go ahead and jump down to the 12-hour. Now, the 12-hour is crossed up, but would cross back down on any 12-hour closes below 64,600, basically. Then we would see this cross back down, and that would indicate that Bitcoin is either already testing or will be testing around that 64 and lower as a possibility. And in this case, there is a bit of a setup if Bitcoin can put in a low right here, right now kind of thing, within this 12-hour candle. And for the 12-hour, the criteria is the same, I believe. Yeah, it's going to be yesterday's high. So it's actually going to be the day prior's high at 65,600. Still, actually. Yeah, so 65,600 or 66,600. I'm sorry. I was reading that wrong. This is going to be 66. Oh, no, I was right. 66,500 in this case. Would cross that back up and get the get a closure above the basis band at this point. That would look pretty good. And you can see, Bitcoin's not in an expansive posture, but if it loses this wick low in the 12-hour at 64K, that would also be below the lower second, thus kicking off more aggressive expansion to the downside into some of the structure over here that we mentioned, 63, 63 and a half, 62, 62 and a half, down to 61 at that October monthly and possibly under. Let's go ahead and look at the 2-day. The 2-day did just get its close. We can see that the lower second is right there at 64,100. So again, close below the wick low. And if the 2-day did get follow through over the weekend, because we are now in the Friday candle, even though this is being recorded on Thursday, Bitcoin's living in the future, then that would, start to paint the picture that it's going to come back down and get expansion into support down there in the areas we were just talking about. Same thing to the upside. Any closes back above $69,000, start looking to that upper first, $69.5 to $70,000, and then right back to the highs again, somewhere around 71.5 to 72. Above there, we would look for expansion to the highs, 73.835 to 75, and then 75, 78, so on and so forth. Now, the 2-day is starting to get into the it's right at the edge of the oversold zone. So this isn't in danger for the bears. It is in danger for the bulls for looking for continuation. Typically, when you see some of the longer term time frame stokes, because it is a regular stoke, whenever you see it getting into the overbought or oversold zones, that's typically where we see the biggest moves. So just be aware of that. And right now it's really just oscillating around a major support level, or a support resistance level, I should say. I'm not too concerned about it. I know some are. I am not. Looking at the 3-day, it's a big range between the lows here at 59, almost $60,000. So again, if 60 breaks down, we have to start looking lower, and then basically around the high, somewhere around 72.5, where we have all wicks on the 3-day, but above there, the all-time high and higher up to $76,000 or so by the upper third. 4-day, did this get a close? Yes, it did. And it did close below the basis band, thus preserving the downside targets of the current wick low at 64 to the lower first there at $63,000. So again, right around that top side of the daily higher low structure from the prior uptrend. 5-day is, lower first is right where that wick low is, basically $64,000. Nothing too crazy there. Let's revisit the weekly. Yeah. So the weekly is right here at the basis band, keeps tagging and around that $64,000. The basis band is currently at 64,175, almost 64,2. If we did see the weekly close, and I will revisit this in tomorrow's video, but if we see the weekly close under there, it is more likely that it's going to come down and tag some of those lower end targets in and around, possibly even $60,000 and try and run that higher low area from the prior uptrend. But it would still leave the door wide open to come down to the actual supports and into the actual support somewhere around 59 to even run that daily deviation area by $58,000 where the lower first is. So just be aware of that. Anywhere back above $69,000, however, I would look for it to run the weekly close open up here around just shy of $70,000 to the upper first there, just over $70,000 at $70,300, and then the actual wick highs at 72, 73, 73, 35, and then the upper second somewhere around 75 to 78. And this is in a compressive phase, so I'm not looking for this to like break down and impulse down. If anything, what this is telling me on the weekly is that even if it dropped 56,500, for those of you that watched the long form video this week, Bitcoin cost production is at $60,000 for the baseline cost production for electricity. And after the halving, we typically do see Bitcoin dip under it. Usually it's a little bit closer to the halving than we are right now. But in this case, you can see that the lower second, because we're in a compression phase, even if it did get tagged from a volatility standpoint, not a structural standpoint, but from a volatility standpoint, somewhere around 50 to 53, wouldn't be out of the question and wouldn't really break anything long term. So would it not look great? Wouldn't look great for immediate takeoff to the upside, that's for sure. But at minimum, we would be looking for things to go into a sideways reaccumulation before the rest of this bull market gets rolling, that's for sure. All right, let's look at one other thing before I let you go here, and that is the 4 hour. What's the 4 hour doing? It's just a markdown on the 4 hour. We're not really getting expansion. We saw a move to the upper first, upper second zone, move back down to the lower first. Now, this is actually a good thing. If it can regain the basis at around 65,200 and then push back to the upper first, upper second and break this 4 hour downtrend, it already had a lower high, higher low trend break. And now it's going for essentially equal lows, maybe lower lows on divergence from some of this structure here on the 4 hour. We can even check that real quick. Yeah, divergence would be in play if it comes down here. So, unless it starts closing below $64,000, the edge around this area for the setup is in the bull's favor. It's just nothing is confirmed. Needs to at minimum start closing above 65,200 and then make a run for yesterday's high at 66,500 or so. That would look a little bit better for the bulls. This is one counterpoint to that, and that is that momentum is turning against the bulls right now with the pivot up there at 65,600. So in the short to medium term time frames, it is downside pressure all the way up through the daily and even through the weekly now. So bulls got to hold this area. And bears are on the clock from the daily perspective. At minimum, I would be looking for any reversals to result in a very nice bounce, and then we come back to it for a structure change. I will come back to you again tomorrow with another video. I'm not sure if it's going to be a long form video or a short form video. We will play it by ear, and I will let you know when it's uploaded. So you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that said, Landy out.